I'd like to hear from you. What's improved and where is there still more to be done in your opinion?
Okay, thanks for the introduction and repeating the fact that I'm so old as well. So I'm going to hit you on ageism as well now, right? So
what's your experience
as well? Yeah, look, I've got over 30 years experience. And look, you may be asking, why am I talking about it? I'm not a woman in trying to excel in recruitment. Well, to be honest, if anything's going to change, unfortunately, it's the men who seem to be sitting at the top and holding all the power. And unless they change their mindset, then it will take a long time to see progress. I think there's been a lot of change, especially around gender, and I'm passionate about all forms of discrimination, but gender especially, I think there's been a lot of progression. I think there's been a big push from the government a few years back about having more females at board level, and I think that's escalated down. And I think people are becoming more aware that there are a difference between men and women, right? We do react differently. We are different. We are motivated by different things. It's been proven, right? I'm not just saying that. And therefore, I think they're starting to become aware you can't treat everybody the same. So I think the awareness is there. I think the desire is there to try and make a difference. To all the companies that I've been involved in, especially with Amora Bond, you always say what we want to make sure we have a diverse, around gender, race, etc. So it's something I believe everyone's passionate about. And has there been a change? Yes, there has. Has it been quick enough? I don't think it has. I think the problem comes down to is that people have a willingness to change, but that only really hits them when they have an experience, when they experience it themselves, right? So I think my tipping point, or the catalyst for me, was when I had 2 daughters. And as they were growing up, the way that you pigeonhole your daughters to wear pink and be saved by a prince and all the sort of things that you stereotype around women, it started making me think differently about maybe how does that escalate all the way through your career. And it's even simple things around, you go to board meetings and I've seen it before, right? Oh, who can take the notes? Who's more organized? So there's a stereotype that's still out there around women. And I think unless we start educating ourselves about the differences and start putting quotas in, I believe, then I don't think you'll start to see the acceleration that it needs. So I think there's still a long way to go. I think there's a willingness to do that. But what we've got to do as a company is to really start educating the men that are in power. We need the women to be outspoken and think about what they think and what they feel and not being held against them. And we need to be able to have an open discussion and not be, someone to be penalized maybe for having an opinion which might not sit comfortable with people. And I think it's just having that balance right, that you can have a very open discussion, debate and views and opinions and not feel that you're going to be set upon. So to me, it's getting that balance right. So I think what Amora Bond are trying to do, I think they're trying to tackle lots of different things. And if we can improve one thing, I think making sure understand the differences. And what we're seeing in every company that I've been involved in, there's talk about glass ceiling. They get to one level, it seems to be level. It goes up another level. You see the ratio go towards men. Then it goes up another level and less women. And I think the culture that we create in the company will decide whether women will stay here or not. If it's a very masculine culture, it's all talking about, male orientated things around sports or maybe drinking or whatever the culture that you'd sometimes feel in an environment, unless you start to open that up and change that women feel comfortable that they can discuss that and talk about that or take into account what other things are in need, then I think the change will happen. So we have to change the culture and we have to change the mindset of the people at the top to really have that passion to make a difference.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those insights, Gary. And I think actually a lot of what you said is really interesting and certainly does resonate with a lot of the work that we've been doing at Ascend. And we were talking about this just the other day, and we strongly believe that we have seen a real mindset shift over the last couple of years around the management team, with an awareness of the importance of gender diversity within a business, and a real shift in that okay, it's not just about attracting females into this sector, but actually it's about the progression opportunities thereafter. And within our management team here, there's a real want to do really, really well in that area. You know, people really want to hire great females, but progress them as well. And I know certainly for me, one of the potential, I guess, misconceptions of coming into an industry like this is that females don't progress all the way to the top in sales. And there is a bit of a ceiling for that. And I think what's great here is, you know, there's people that are doing that. And for me, it's certainly really rewarding seeing the females in the business progress and actually break through a lot of those biases, because actually culturally there is a real shift here on how to do things, which is playing a really, really big part in us. You know, you're right, there is still a long way to go without a doubt, but it is changing, and you can see that notably. And I think it's okay to say that we're not quite there yet either. You know, we've launched the Ascend program, and whilst it's done a lot of really great stuff, there are things that maybe haven't been as effective as we might have wanted. And it's okay to say, do you know what, that didn't really work as well as we wanted. Let's try and do it a little bit differently next time. And making that sort of mistake or looking at a different way to do things is also okay. And I think, again, that is something that is, you know, a preconception that's incorrect about this industry. Is it is very cutthroat, can't get things wrong. Actually, you can. And a lot of this is about learning. It's about progression, trying things to get to where we need to get to in the end from a gender diversity and equality perspective.
I think just on that, actually, one of the things that Amy and I have learned as co-hosts is to be mindful of the diversity within the female group, the females that work within our organisation, and actually not expecting everybody to turn up for every initiative and every event that we run. And that was a real learning curve for us, and actually kind of learning to adapt and change and evolve what we're offering and what we thought people the women in our business would maybe want. Some of the things we thought we'd put on have worked brilliantly, and other things we've had to kind of go, okay, why is that one not working? And Amy's right, it's that psychological safety to make mistakes, to sometimes get it wrong. And I think to your point, Gary, about opening up the conversation, it's actually really important that both men and women feel that that's okay to kind of be able to have that open discussion and dialogue. Is really, really important. Otherwise, we're never going to really move past the kind of superficial level on this.
You know, what's also important is what I've seen is that sometimes when women get to a certain position, they're so relieved that they've made it to the top, they forget about everybody else below. And it's important to have role models, right? To me, it's, you know, they look at you, Amy, and you and Tash, and say, look, they've achieved that, or Fiona, right? What's possible for us? What do we need to do? And I think it's just as important for you to help those people climbing that ladder and pull them up. You know, and I think Michelle Obama's a famous quote around that, you know, when you get at the top, your job is to put that ladder down and make sure other people can climb up that ladder. What I've found in some situations, a woman gets to the top, she's so relieved to get there and feels like, I'm here now, I'm the only woman here, and therefore I've got to act differently to fit in, and then forgets everybody else trying to climb up that ladder. Or they think because they've made it and they've sacrificed some maybe stuff in their personal life, everyone else should do the same. Right. And I've seen that before. I've been in big groups where I've had certain people in senior roles and saying, look, I made it from a X background and I did this and I did that and I've achieved that. Then why can't you? Well, it doesn't work like that, right? Because we're not all the same. So I think it's really important as when you do get to the top and you are climbing that ladder, that you also be aware of the people that are also who might be different from you, right? Because just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're all the same. It's like just saying if you're of a certain color, you're all the same. It doesn't work like that. But you also got to remember, as being as a role model, you have some, I believe, if you want to make a change, it's your job to try and pull as many people up with you as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, completely agree. And again, I think Ascend is a great way of being able to connect and network with some of the other females in the business who are in different roles, have been here for different levels of tenure, to understand, you know, what's important to them. Because you're right, it is different for everybody. It really, really is. And I think that actually links really nicely, and we'll come to you now, Anne, as somebody who is newer to the company. You know, you've probably got a fresh take on this. So, you know, what, if any, you know, preconceptions did you maybe have looking to step into the recruitment consultancy industry? And, you know, what's your reality been like?
Hi, thank you. Of course, first of all, thank you for letting me speak and tell my story for today. Um, yeah, actually, before I started working for Amoria Bond, the first thing that I did was to research about our company. And then I found out, well, it's kind of more technical part. And the first thought that I had was like, it's not something that I did before. I don't have any knowledge about technical skills, about engineering. How should I fit in this industry? So, but what I did was to research more, not only about the company, but also about the people who are working in or for Amoria Bond. And that's when I found out about videos of our women colleagues in Amsterdam, in Cologne, who are talking about their experience at the Moria Bond. And that made me so comfortable in continuing and pursuing, submitting my application, my CV, of to just try out and find more about this, because it made me so curious. How can these people, or can this woman actually talk so nicely about their experience in a company in a very man dominated industry? And actually my preconception, well, my thought was, okay, if they can do it, why shouldn't I try it? And actually, starting from that point, I felt so comfortable with working for our industry. Especially, I just feel very well prepared in what I have to do. And I think that is also something that I would like to give as an advice for every woman who is considering to start just in starting a career, not only as a recruiter, but also in general in such kind of an industry, to research more, research about people who are working in this industry, and maybe you find something inspirational, and you can identify yourself doing the same thing what they do. One thing I know for sure when I started working for Amoria Bond is I can talk very well, and I love talking to people, and I would love to share my story with other people. And that is something that I have here in what we do in Amoria Bond, because not only I help those clients that we work with into finding the right fit, but also into improving my own professional journey, which makes me more comfortable in being myself and being so authentic. And I think one thing that I can give to our colleagues in men, or male colleagues in at the Moria Bond, is that they are giving us women so much space into being ourselves and being free to talk and to be open about how we feel currently. Not only the preparation that we have, but also just to be feeling comfortable. That what Gary told us earlier, it's definitely something that I can confirm. Last time I had my monthly progression report with my manager, and that was such a very new experience for me, because he asked me all of a sudden, "Are you happy?" And that made me so realize, wow, I've never been asked by someone, especially by my managers from before in my working experience, if I'm happy. And that made me so emotional, because I realized, hey, that's such a very simple question, but it makes a lot of difference. And I think Amoria Bond does really a good work with this. And also, I can tell for everyone just to try it, give it a try, and you'll find out anyways.
Yeah, brilliant. Love that. I'm going to be finding out who that manager is from you later.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those insights. Some really interesting stuff there. And noted down actually that you mentioned about obviously helping clients, and that is so much of what we do in a service-driven sector. You know, it's about adding value to organizations. Yes, it's sales, but it is about providing a great service to the people that you're working with, whether they're a client, whether they're a candidate, whatever it may be. It's about adding that value and doing a great job. And that is something that, you know, as females is really, really important. So Alina, coming to you now as somebody who has been with the business quite a little bit longer, I think it's about 2.5 years now. You joined us as a working student, rapid progression to principal consultant, and have achieved some amazing things along the way. So yeah, tell us all a little bit more about your experience. And again, any potential preconceptions.
Yes. So first of all, I think I have to make a link to what Gary said, because he said like a change of culture needs to be done for, or male have to drive this change so women can feel comfortable. And this is one thing I noted down, because when I started, I remember that a male colleague of mine, he told me that it's really great they have another female there, because it really benefits the team, and it also brings a different vibe into the everyday working life. It's just different than just having males sitting there on the table. And that's really what still stays in my mind, that he told me that I think at my first or second day in the company. So I think the change there in the minds of the males here at Amoria Bond was ongoing also 3 years ago. But let me take you back to my beginning. I have to say, Amoria Bond doesn't really give me a chance to think of misconceptions, because with my first contact with the industry was with Amoria Bond, and I was approached by a female internal senior recruiter. And when I arrived for my first day, I was introduced to a female trainer who was a former senior consultant. So I had a couple of females around. And when I arrived, I also recognized that there were a lot of successful women working there in the Cologne office. So I always had these inspirations, and I could get the inspiration from them and learn from them a lot, but also, of course, from my male colleagues, I don't feel that there's any difference in that. So I came really without any misconceptions, and I was not, they showed me that there's no need to have this misconception, that this job is not for a woman, because it definitely is. And when I started as a working student, I also felt really welcomed, and I got the chance to really be myself. Also on the phone, I was not told to be someone I'm not. I could really bring my own personality into the calls with the candidates and clients, and it was a really feeling of freedom also into my progression and my what I did. And so after my studies, it was really an easy decision to say, yes, I want to stay here forever and grow old. And so, a lot of things happened since then. I was promoted a couple of times. I actually, financially wise, I was able to more than double my income per year within 1 year. And so when it comes to maybe topics of pay gaps that some companies have, I think in Amoria Bond, they definitely don't have something like that, because everyone can climb up the ladder with the 10 steps progression plan and the promotion plan. And I think it doesn't care about gender at all, but just about you as a person, just working hard and do what it takes to achieve your goals and the success that you really need to get from it.
Yeah. And Alina, you've got, I know I'm conscious of time, but you do have a very unique kind of approach to how you go about kind of getting yourself in the right mindset. And one of the things you've talked about previously when we've done a showcase on you on the internal sessions with Ascend is kind of how you get in the zone. Would you mind just kind of briefly letting people know, because I think it's really important from you're being authentic, being able to be authentic within a role. I think it's a great example.
Yeah, like when I told it in internal meetings, I also noticed that also the males were really interested in how you do, and can you tell me something about it? It's like the classical meditation that I do for maybe more than 10 years now, and I learned from it to stay focused in my everyday working life. And I remember that everyone asked me, how can you be so focused all day? And then I tell them about it, and they're really interested and want to know it. Also, of course, the male colleagues. And so I think this is also a great thing that I shared with my colleagues there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that you've had a big influence, actually, because I know quite a few of us, myself included, who've then actually kind of adopted some mindful meditation practices and the impact that that's had. So yeah, thank you for that.
That's good. Thank you.
They do, and it's a really unique and like interesting approach to looking at it. But that sort of like holistic way of working is certainly something that is at the forefront. And we actually had guest speaker Nikki Lowen at our last Ascend session, and she talked about that as well. So I think it's clearly something that's incredibly important. Lisa, our new L&D manager, she's actually putting an internal program in place at the moment around NLP, hypnotherapy. So that's something we're really excited about because it is different and it is unique. And actually, Alina, what is so refreshing is the fact that you came in without any preconceptions. Yeah. And I think that actually is testament to how far the industry has come within, you know, gender equality and diversity, actually. Yeah. So talking about well-being and putting our employees' wants, needs, priorities first has always been a big focus within our business. Now, Jenny, I think it would be a really good time for us to turn to you now, actually, as somebody who's had a really unique journey with us and can probably relate to that. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about your experiences.
Yeah, so I joined the business 8 years ago, and I think I definitely did have some thoughts on the industry before I joined, and whilst I was considering it as a career, you know, I've spoken to people and they were like, oh, recruitment, staffing and consulting, it's a bit aggressive, it can be quite cutthroat. So I did have some initial reservations, but similar to Alina, during my process, like my hiring and interviewing process with Moribond, that just completely put me at ease, and it almost immediately got rid of those thoughts straight away. It wasn't something that I considered just throughout the process. I chose, you know, I interviewed at, you know, quite a number of different places. I chose to join Moribond because, mostly because of the progression that was on offer. That was something that was really, really important to me. And I wanted a career where I could progress and it be within my own hands in terms of my career and where I take it. And that's something that's always been really important to my career, and something that we offer is a really clearly laid out progression plan, and not just for the sales staff as well, but for the group services and the support functions too. So everybody has that clear progression in mind in terms of what they need to do to get to that next step. So that was the thing that initially attracted me to work for a Moribond. And I guess my journey since then has been the complete opposite of what maybe my initial reservations or my initial thoughts were. It's such an incredibly supportive environment. We do a lot of things around well-being, like you just mentioned, Amy. We do we have the committees, so D&I, CSR, social committees, that really enable you to shape the strategy and the progression of the business itself. You really do get a voice and get a say, no matter your gender or what gender you identify as. It's incredibly supportive in terms of the coaching and the training that we get. You know, we have internal trainers and external trainers and speakers. And obviously we have the Ascend programme, which is an incredibly supportive initiative that really help with the women in the business. And there's that flexibility as well, because we understand that, you know, people's situations change, and we offer that flexibility in terms of working situations and environments, and that flexibility on the hours or where you work from. You know, we understand that, so it's really inclusive to everybody in their own individual situations. And I think I've had an interesting career here, because I've not necessarily just worked within the sales function. So I started as a trainee, I moved into sales management. I got the opportunity to work as an L&D coach for a year as well. And now I've moved into the talent attraction part of the business. So I'm responsible for UK, Asia Pacific and USA in order to attract new people to the business. So from that perspective, I feel incredibly lucky, and I've never once felt during my career that I was on the back foot because of my gender. You know, I've always felt incredibly supportive, and in terms of that, I guess, talent mobility piece, I've always felt like my progression and what I wanted through my career has been at the forefront of importance for the business and for my mentors and my managers.
I love hearing that, Jenny. I mean, you'll know from conversations with me what a huge believer in talent mobility I am, and the importance of that, the importance of companies being aware of and sensitive to the needs of the changing needs and circumstances that happen in employees' lives. And it's great to hear that you've had that positive experience. And one of the things, as somebody who's not been within the industry for that long, I've worked alongside the industry for quite a long time, but it's not where I came from originally. The thing that I think probably for me is the biggest kind of piece of learning is around how many opportunities there really are within this industry. It's so much more than kind of the pure sales role. And even within the sales role, there's such a variety of tasks and functions that actually make it so much more interesting than I had definitely preconceptions and misconceptions about what the role entailed. And I think, building on what Amy was saying before, what I see, particularly in the culture here, is the real importance of being able to build relationships and maintain relationships. And actually, that's so fundamentally important. You can see it in the people who are really good and progress really quickly. They're fantastic at building relationships, and it's such a core competency. Fiona, we've kept you waiting, my apologies. But as somebody else who's kind of worked within the staffing industry for a number of years, it would be really good to hear from you about a similar question that I asked Gary, really, but what changes you've seen in respect of gender diversity, and also what you've seen in terms of opportunities for women to progress up to board level, like you've successfully done yourself.
Yes, I will do. So having worked in kind of staffing industry for 14 years or more, I have seen a number of changes. Companies are improving, they are diversifying, they are starting to encourage women working for them, and they are becoming more flexible, but there's still a lot of improvement that can be made. I've had to look at a number of companies as potential acquisition targets. So, you know, I have seen quite a broad spectrum and different sizes of businesses. And what has become apparent is there are still a number of companies that actually make it very difficult for women to return to work after having a career break. On a number of occasions, I've seen women come back in, and it usually is often having a family, but sometimes it can be caring for, you know, a relative or someone, and they want to return to work, but on a part-time basis, and the same role, but not under the same working hours or conditions. And that has for a long time been actually discouraged. And companies have actually used it as an opportunity to manage people out of the business. So women have either had to give up on the role that they wanted to work, or effectively, in some cases, actually had to leave the business simply because they wanted the role, but on a part-time basis. And I've almost been given the impression that the perception is by a lot of companies to show flexibility shows weakness, and they're almost worried that if they become flexible for one person, then they have to be flexible for everybody, and then everybody will start requesting to work different working hours or work part-time hours. And that's obviously not the case at all. But that's barriers that we still need to break down. So there's definitely been an improvement. But as I said, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And the differentiator for me was during my interview process at Amoria Bond. I spoke to you, Natasha, when you introduced me to the Ascend programme, which, you know, I'd not worked for a business that had anything like that in the past. But then talking to the other directors, it became very apparent that they were all very passionate about the Ascend programme. They're very passionate about diversifying their workforce, promoting women, recruiting the best people. And so it wasn't as though people, quite often I've heard companies talk about D&I, but you can tell that they're just paying lip service to it because they have to advertise these numbers in their stat accounts and advertise it on their website. But every director I spoke to, you could tell they were passionate about it and really bought into the idea and the importance of having a programme like this. And that was a key difference for me that made me realise that actually I wanted to work within a business like this that had a programme like Ascend.
That's lovely to hear that. And I think, you know, one of the most exciting things for me, and I know Amy and I have talked about this before, is as we progress with Ascend, what we're seeing is local initiatives or individuals within the business running their own kind of spin-off initiatives. So one of our colleagues set up the Lean In Circles. We're not involved with that at all. That's a kind of spin-off from Ascend. It's obviously part of a bigger program, the Lean In Circles program. But it was something she shared that she'd wanted to do for a while, and when we launched Ascend, she felt kind of empowered to do that. And you know, we've had regional kind of women's lunches that people, not Amy and I, have had nothing to do with organising, and that's really what we wanted to happen within the business, was actually women to feel empowered to do things to change the culture for their local offices, for their teams, and for us as a whole across the group. And it's really exciting to see more and more of that happening. And I think that's really true of all the diversity initiatives and inclusion initiatives that we've launched. They've all been very much focused on empowering our colleagues and empowering them to work on things and to help us improve the culture in the areas that really matter and that they're really passionate. And I think that's one of the key things that over the time I've been involved with this that I've really learned, that is so important to empower everybody else. It can't be the Amy Natasha show. That's never going to work, and we haven't got the bandwidth for it. Thank you for that, Fiona. Just before I come back to Gary, you mentioned there about you've been involved with and led acquisitions during your time within the staffing industry. Just kind of changing the focus slightly, given that experience and obviously your role with us as CFO, why is it so important that companies take this subject seriously and actually prioritise initiatives and cultural change to achieve greater gender diversity and attract and retain and progress more women within their business? And I'm thinking of it now more from sustained commercial success and growth for their own businesses.
Yeah, definitely. As you say, to retain the best people, to recruit the best people, you have to have a diversified workforce. If you stay very narrow-minded in your approach to your workforce, you're going to continue to recruit the same type of people, and you are automatically excluding a percentage of the workforce that can actually do a fantastic job for you. I've been lucky. I've worked with some fantastic women that probably haven't progressed their career as far as they could have or should have because of the opportunities that haven't necessarily been opened up for them. And if a business doesn't stay open-minded and look across all diverse, a diverse workforce, then they will regress as a business. They won't be able to grow. They won't recruit the best people. They won't retain the best people. You know, the companies where I've seen that they've been inflexible, it has the reverse effect. Instead of people thinking, I want to work for this company, when they see that actually you have to come back and work full-time or you have to leave the business, then other people will look and think, well, actually, I don't want to work for this type of company. I'd rather work for a company that is flexible. And, at Memorial Bond, we've introduced a hybrid working environment. I've seen that, the teams have certain days in the office, certain days working from home. I've seen the communication between those teams improve on the days they're in the office. But similarly, we've been able to adapt and be flexible around people's other commitments, doing the school runs and that kind of thing. And I said to the team, we've started trying this over the last sort of month or so, and I said, let's see how it works. And I'm picking up with individuals to make sure that they're not anxious about coming back into the office, that these hybrid working hours are working for them. And I can see that the positive response that I'm getting from the teams, either individually or collectively, and it's working well.
Absolutely, that flexibility is so important. And Gary, just before we come back and summarise and draw to a close, similar question to you really for a final word on why it is so important that we continue to drive, and to your point, opening, actually accelerate change and make quicker change towards proper gender diversity and progressing more women across the industry.
I don't know, just look at Germany, right? When it was run by a woman, how well it was run. Look at New Zealand, how well that country's been run, right? We need more female leaders, right? Look at the situation we're in with Ukraine and Russia. You know, you have too many men, too many egos in charge, testosterone and everything else. It doesn't balance we need to have a balance of the world, right? And I think you need to have a mix of all types of people with difference of opinion, different viewpoints, different experiences. You know, I think if you look at COVID, right, COVID has had a positive in some ways in relation to opening people's views about working from home now, right? If you talked about women working from home, I'm going to drop my kids and pick my children up and do it, we'd have said, don't be silly, you need to be in the office, you need to be on the phone, you need to do this, you need to do that. And now you can see some of the most productive people have given a lot more freedom. They've earned their stripes now. And I think you've got to learn the job as well, right? I think so. You've got to do the hours to be good at anything. But I think what it's demonstrated, COVID's demonstrated that there are different ways of doing things. And if you told me 5 years ago that people can work from home 2-3 days a week, or they don't have to be in the office from 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, I would have said, well, it's not going to work. Or you've got, you know, we had a culture where you're expected to take all your team out for drinks after work all the time. And some people can't do it, right? And I remember one situation where we had a female leader, and she didn't do any of that. She'd go home, she had kids, and her priorities were different. And we had one person who was taking the team out, always doing all the sort of jolly stuff. And we thought, oh, the core of that success is that man running it, not the woman. And when we took the woman out of the business and put her into a different role, the business just fell apart, because we were valuing and appreciating the wrong things. Right? You're just valuing the things about making staff happy, right? Or being out there and having a drink at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, or being away on a weekend. I'm not saying you can't do that. You can do both. But I think we've got to start really looking at the things that are really important to make someone successful. And it's not necessarily working every single day in the office, going out late, going on this, doing it. Sometimes it's making sure we have people who are different viewpoint, different approach, different way of tackling things. So if you look at the data that's come back, right, and they've studied boards or successful companies, those companies that have a more diverse board and a diverse balance of gender are the companies that are more successful. So if we want to excel as a business, we need to make sure we have a true representation of the world, right? And 50% of the population are women. So really, we want 50% of the senior management to be women. Why shouldn't it be? And it's not going to happen overnight, but we need to put those structures in place. We need to highlight some of the issues, and we need to be honest with each other, honest with us as a business, right? As a business, and Moribond is, you know, one of the best businesses that you can work for. For those of you working here, the values are there, the culture's there, the intentions are there, but they're going to make mistakes. They're not going to get it right. And there are going to be individuals in that business that are not going to be right. They're not going to adapt. They're not going to change. But if we've got constant feedback, we've got reviews, we've got assessment, those people will eventually they're the dinosaurs. They'll die. What we will do, we'll evolve, we'll understand the challenges, we'll make mistakes on the way, but eventually, we'll get to that stage where we have the balance that's right. And if we don't get to that stage, then I don't think the business will meet its full potential.
We're going to get there. We're getting there.
We will.
And look, and that's the most important thing, right, Amy and Tash? You guys are so passionate about it, right? And so I know so are the male directors as well, right? I know if I speak to Dan or Gareth or Nick, they're just as passionate about it. So you're not in a company where you've got this sort of old grumpy white old man who's controlling everything at the top, which you might associate with some industries, right? You've got a board that wants to make a change. We want to be based on merit, but we make sure we've got to value the right things as well, right? It's not just how many hours you work or just how much you bill. Billing is not enough. It's what you're doing as an overall person. And I think as we change and grow and get older and wiser, but you can't wait for us at the top to change. You've got to impact change at every level in the business, and everyone's got to have a voice, and some of it won't be listened to. Some of it will be wrong, right? Just because you've got an opinion on something or you've got a female's perspective on things. But as collectively, we start looking at everything collectively and hopefully make the right decisions. And the Moribond have won so many awards in so many ways, so you can see they want to do the right thing. And I know we still got a long way to go, but we've got to start somewhere. And I think we're starting in a good place.
Absolutely, definitely. And it's been great to see quick progress as well, because of that commitment that comes all the way through the business, which is fantastic. I'm very mindful of time, and I just want to say thank you to our whole panel. Everyone's led with positivity today, stepped out of comfort zones to be part of today's event. There were some real nerves jangling around from some of us before the event, and I think, you know, credit to everybody who's joined us. Thank you so much. It's been a really great discussion, and I've got 1 minute, I think, just to summarize. For me, it's International Women's Week. The theme is breaking the bias, and for me, the key things that I kind of took away are: women can be their authentic selves in our industry. You don't have to act like a man. Women do progress in our industry, but it's not just down to women to make the change. We need everyone, men and women, to be a force for change and accelerate progress. And a key thing, Anna, you brought up, which really resonated: experience of doing the job first isn't as important. In fact, it's not important. What's important here is your mindset and your attitude. We can teach you the skills. We can teach you what you need to do. If you've got the great attitude, the great mindset, anyone can succeed here, regardless of gender. And actually, look at our panel today. This industry is not as male dominated anymore as it was. Gary's right. We're not where we need to be yet. We're not at 50-50 proportional gender balance, but we are moving in the right direction. And I think if anyone can take anything away from today, it is really, really, honestly, a great industry to work in. I love every moment of it at the moment. So if we have piqued anybody's interests around, thinking that they might want to pursue a career in our industry or with the Moribond CMC group, then do get in touch, drop us a DM. Get in touch with Jenny, one of our talent attraction. She's a very, very friendly and honest and open talent attraction manager. All of our team are. And it just remains to say thank you so much to everyone on the panel and everyone who's joined us around the world today. I've loved this discussion, and we'll be doing more of these over time. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're finished, yeah.
Everyone who's joined us around the world today. I've loved this discussion, and we'll be doing more of these over time.